If you need the water, check the beaches in the Carolinas. If you need the mountains, try the Appalachian Trail. If you need the redwood trees, gotta go to Yosemite. If you need me, 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 I'll be in Kansas City.
Welcome to Kansas City Limits Radio. I'm your host, Robert Bierce. Today in the studio, we've got Miss Jackie Myers. We're going to learn about everything about her story, what she's doing, and what she's getting ready to do. But first, let's say hello to our co-host, Mr. J.E. Cornwell. Hello, J.E.
Hello, Robert.
How's it going over there?
It's Monday. I love being here on Monday.
Monday.
Yes. Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for being here with
Yeah,
us today.
no problem.
I am
Great
so
intro.
excited to get you in
You're
here.
welcome.
Robert, tell the fine folks how we get to do this show.
Yeah, we want to thank all of our supporters out there, and thank you for tuning in at home, television, radio, wherever you're at. We appreciate you taking us on a walk. Kansas City Limits Radio and Television Radio is sponsored by Kansas City RVs, voted 2023's favorite RV dealer in Kansas City by the Kansas City Star, AMPR, Area Musicians Promotional Resource, a non-for-profit organization, Black Moon Media, LLC, photos and videos for Magical Souls, and Kansas City Limits executive producers. Open Mortgage, where better is possible, and owning is still better than renting. Knuckleheads KC, a music joint, voted #1 music venue in Kansas City by Kansas City Magazine. Kansas City Limits TV and radio, spotlighting Kansas City's local musicians, and much more. Soundworks Recording Studio in Blue Springs for over 20 years, where Kansas City Limits Radio is recorded. S&S Printing, a commercial printing and design company. B4 Productions, creating commercials and videos. They'll bring your ideas to life. Summit Video Services, award-winning video productions and video services. Midwest Music Foundation, giving local musicians the care they deserve. And thanks for tuning in to Kansas City Limits.
Oh, my gosh, Robert, that was the best that you've ever done.
Thank you. Do I get a star now?
I
It was really good.
Let's put this down on the calendar, Andy, that this was how it's supposed to be done. Welcome to the show. Again, Jackie Myers. As anybody has ever watched any Kansas City Limits programming, that would be a TV show, a radio show, or what we call our street show. It is going to be introduced always. Always is going to have the same jingle, and that jingle was done by one and only Jackie Myers.
It was, and thank you for hosting that jingle. It's been a pleasure watching that.
Yes, and our good friend Howard Mahan, who we've had on the show many times, also got involved at your request, right?
Oh, man, and he tore it up.
Yes.
I mean, it took all of like 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, play guitar. He was like, I'm going to nail it.
Yes. And then who did the drums on that?
I think I did.
Did you do them? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done.
I did most of the track. I do a lot of composition. Most of my bread and butter is playing live, but I've taken a lot of composition. I really enjoy it. I've done a theme to a podcast too. And I had a project out of Austin where I used to write soundtracks to old silent films. And
wow.
Yeah, it was super cool. We used to commission composers, one of which was me. And then we'd get a band together and we'd show the movie and we'd have the band play live. And
Wow.
yeah, it was so fun.
So the movie's silent,
Yeah,
and there's nothing to it anyway. And now you're creating something for it for the first time and the backdrop to it.
right. And
Yeah.
there would have been a soundtrack to it probably originally. Or the way that silent films actually toured was they would send along like a manuscript of music, and
I
the
see.
players at the theaters would have played them. Or you'd have one
Okay.
organ player. It just depended on the town.
Okay.
So they'd
okay.
often travel with the music.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I
How
just learned
cool
something.
is
That's
that?
cool. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, well, the piano key thing never showed up, Bill. You're screwed.
Well, we get a lot of play, and thanks to Andy's editing genius, we've got it down to, I think 41 seconds now is our jingle that we are able to, and we got it right. It ends right at Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it works out really well.
It sounds so comfortable and it sounds so professional.
Thank you so
does.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, it really does. It puts the programming in just a pause moment, like, you know, it really does. It doesn't. It keeps you wanting to know what's getting ready to flip next.
Yeah.
So
Well, in the beginning,
yeah.
we only had it as the intro for the TV show. I don't know. I think in the radio show we've always had it as part of the outro.
Yeah.
But when we start running the credits, we then bring it back.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you've seen it, so you know. But it was one of the best. And when I first sent it to Andy to have put on this intro for this show, I sent him the original without any of the other. It was just you and your keyboard.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
so
The spec
He's
one.
like, I'm like, oh man, yeah, I got a better one. Let me send it to you. So we fixed it. Okay, let's jump right in. I know. Thank you so much for getting this form filled out. I know you're a busy gal and you got a lot of gigs on the weekends, but thank you for doing this. It helps the interview process go. Well, I don't know about swimmingly, but it goes smoother.
That's right.
You're working on a new album. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
And how many albums have you done up to this point?
Oh my gosh. I think I have 7.
Wow.
Whoa.
Congratulations. Thanks.
Are
Yeah.
all of them on the website?
You know, I am the one who updates the website. So every once in a while, the web design team doesn't really come together
I
as,
see.
as I wish.
Slacker.
But I know there's
Fire that
several
web
of them.
designer.
I keep trying. She just keeps showing up in the morning.
So you're like on your grandmaster PhD level of release. You know, there's freshman, junior, sophomore releases, master releases. 7.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
I actually
8.
kind of feel a little bit of pressure in that regard because the last 3 albums I did were live albums with
Okay.
a local venue. And this will be the first studio album that I've made since I moved to Kansas City.
Okay.
And I do feel like I need to try to say something with it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what are you waiting for? Let it all hang out.
Right. Hurry up.
Yeah.
Charlie Parker land, you're here, so you might as well, make your mark.
Right. And that's what I am most looking forward to, is to do this in Kansas City because there's so much talent here. And I think that's what I'm gonna lean on. I'm just gonna have my compositions, find the best folks that I know, and see what happens.
Where did we inherit you from? Where did you come from?
I was living in Austin for a long time.
There's no music down there, is there?
Yeah.
I think they have a little bit of it.
They whistle.
They actually have a show with a really similar name.
Yeah, I wonder where that came from.
Yeah.
I wonder.
She may be a spy,
I think
dude.
Austin City Limits got it from us. Maybe.
Probably.
So did you go? Are you from there originally, or did you go there to do music? And
I went there to do music.
I see. And then what brought you to Kansas City specifically?
So I was doing a lot of indie touring under my own name, under other artists' names.
Okay.
Out of Austin. That's how I made a living for a long time.
I see.
But when we would come through Kansas City, I just noticed the amount of talent. And there was a huge jazz scene for such like a relatively
Hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And compared to Austin, it's a much smaller city. And
Yes.
yet there were like 10 venues every night that had jazz going on.
Yes.
Whereas in Austin, you need to get into like one of, well, now I think they have 3, but at the time it was like one major jazz
Sure.
venue.
Sure.
And I just thought, man, if I could just be in one of these jazz venues. And one of them invited me up here eventually to play a residency after I'd played a couple weekends for them.
Which was that?
Green Lady.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we love Green Lady.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of hipsters play there.
Indeed.
Tell us more about
Hipsters.
your album.
Well, I don't want to give too much away.
Well, maybe tell us what a theme of it is in your heart that you're trying to construct. I know you commented here you want to make an impact, but is there, some albums have highs and lows, valleys and peaks.
Sure.
Some are just nonstop. Let's go dancing, your foot stamping the whole time.
Yeah.
What are you trying to shove into the sound that you're going to put out?
Definitely probably not a dance album.
No. Not a toe tapper.
I'm not sure I've ever made a dance album.
Are you trying to make someone jerk a tear out of their eye? Or are you trying to get them to pause and think about their life?
I honestly am probably going for an actualization of sound that I hear.
Okay.
And it's mostly an artistic endeavor for me. And I'd like to combine some of the things that I learned at UMKC. I went to get my master's during the pandemic because there wasn't much else to do.
Go Roos.
And yeah, go Roos. And I found myself, I just kept sneaking over to the composition department. And I kept studying with this guy named Yotam Haber. And he's just this brilliant composer. And there was this side of music that I really didn't know that much about, even though I'd been playing and studying music for so long. A lot of extended techniques that they use in modern composition, even the extension of scales. There are scales with more than 12 notes, just things like that. There are notes between notes that I was just like, microtonality, what is this?
The pinnacle scale. Yeah.
So I'm trying to use what I've learned in the Kansas City jazz scene and combine it with some of the things that I got to learn from their conservatory. And I don't know if that'll be successful or not, but I am really looking forward to hearing what it sounds like.
It's going to be awesome.
Have you selected who's going to be on the album with you already? Or have an idea?
I have a lot of ideas. Yeah. I've started putting feelers out to the players, and I've got a couple of them that are sure. And then I need to schedule some others.
I can't imagine anybody turned down that offer. That would be ridiculous.
Do you know?
That's too kind.
Do you know a guy named Rick Cole here in Kansas City?
Yeah.
Mr. Dreadlock himself.
Yeah.
I love him. He's one of my buddies. How about Alex Baramovitz?
I know him too.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Don't they call Rick Pretty Ricky?
They do call him Pretty Ricky.
Yeah. I've played with him before. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. Who else do I know in that scene? There's a couple other people, but those guys have been around and keep hammering that door and keep playing, and they make their living, rotating the planet of music specifically. And it's nice to see them still at it. So, one of the things we want to talk about is this Riff Generation, the offshoot.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us about that.
Okay, so
I'm apparently it's going to keep going too.
Yeah, I'm really proud to participate in that band and to be part of the institution that Kansas City Jazz Orchestra is in Kansas City. They've been around forever. They just got voted, the Kansas City Jazz Orchestra just got voted Best Jazz Band in Kansas City.
Wow.
We are an offshoot of that. We did not win that award, but we are associated with them, and they are why we even have Riff Generation. So what happened was they wanted to create a small group, and they wanted to encourage new compositions in jazz music in Kansas City. So they held auditions and found an offshoot band, and I'm part of that. And it's this wonderful opportunity. We have practices and concerts, and it's all under their banner. So they have good funding for that. It makes us very comfortable in what we can practice together. To come across a situation where you can work with 10 people.
A miracle.
On a regular, yeah. I mean, the amount of gigs that I play solo or duo is just, and I'm grateful for those. I love playing those. But to play in a large group like that is such a gift. Usually venues don't have the financial support to really back that kind of thing anymore. Well, I mean, you saw the fall of the big bands, right? That was like, absolutely. And that sort of like continues, and we get cut to like, all right, now you can have a quartet. All right, now you can have a trio. Well, we probably do a duo. Maybe just bring your piano.
Well, I think obviously the Kansas City Jazz Orchestra has the ability to attract obviously some of the best jazz musicians in the country, not just here in Kansas City, but so in fact, a year and a half ago, on one of my podcasts, I had my friend James Albright. And we got into this discussion of how the next generation, how to keep this going in Kansas City. And this riff came up, where he was pushing to try to get, I like the term offshoot because really that is it. I mean, it's going to get people interested,
Bend the envelope.
Because it's hard to replace a seat at the jazz orchestra level. I mean, when James Albright comes back and I've got him on, I'm at a club and he's playing with Oscar and we're bullshitting at the table, and he's like, well, yeah, I just got back yesterday. I'd been at Carnegie Hall. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And he's playing in the corner of a bar, and it doesn't matter to him. He just loves to play. But yeah, anyway, I think that was their way of keeping that alive and keeping that interest in Kansas City with folks like you, that are coming up and and having that interest. So,
Right. And it's usually a year-long appointment. But at our last concert, the director of KCJO, for those of you that don't know the acronym, that's Kansas City Jazz Orchestra.
Kansas City Jazz Orchestra.
Kansas City Jazz Orchestra. Anyway.
I like it.
KCJO.
Need like a booming male voice.
They gave it to me when I got born. They said, I sound like this at 1.
So we were talking a little before the show, and we probably should have started the show when we were talking about this, but I found it really interesting, and I'm glad it's my topic to discuss on this
You got
sheet.
lucky.
But yeah, so you were talking about you've written several songs for silent films and so on. Go ahead and tell us about that.
Okay, so I've written a score to 2 Buster Keaton silent films. I'm a huge Buster Keaton fan.
God, good for you.
It was really fun. And they were performed live. That was the coolest part about it. Except the second one was during the pandemic, so we had to be creative there. But I did Cops and The Cook. And my most recent one is A Trip to the Moon by a filmmaker named George. I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but it's George Méliès, I think.
It's one of the original
So these
black
are
and
like
whites of
Yeah,
them
it's
going to
older.
the moon.
Yes.
20s
It
and
looks like they're in a
30s.
cardboard washing box.
Yes, but it's
Yeah.
I think it stands the test of time. If you
Sure.
watch it now, I think it's hilarious.
I like the moon and with the eyes and the sun and stuff.
Yes,
Yes,
and the
yes.
rocket goes into it, and it is
yes.
hilarious.
I know exactly what you're talking about. How old? That's silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you the score. I even put in like little bubbles of text in there.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love that. I just think that, I mean, I'm so glad that you got to be a part of that. I mean, as far as people being able to see these, how will they be able to find your scores on these old silent films?
I have several of them listed on my website, and that's www.jackiemyersmusic.com. And Myers is always misspelled, so we'll go over that real quick. That's Myers. It
That
is
girl.
not like Oscar Mayer. I
Leave
don't.
the E out. please.
Yeah.
Yes.
No
I don't even
wieners.
like hot dogs.
It's like Myers.
Nice.
Yeah.
I steal that.
Well, isn't that the street here too?
Uh,
Myers?
This
Myers Boulevard?
could be.
It's that spelled the same as yours, I believe.
I'm one of those people that just types it into the phone and I follow it mindlessly until I get there.
Hey, I want to back up to your silent movie thing.
'Kay.
Because something that inspired me when I was a kid. I grew up in Parkville, and in Platte Woods, right there off of I-29, there used to be a pizza place. And this is 1977, 76, and they had black and white screen movies with no sound, but they hired a dude to play piano inside while we ate pizza. I swear to God, and it wasn't 1930. It was in the 70s.
Cool.
And it was a hit. People just dug it. And that place eventually turned into like a cheesecake place too. So anyway, but that's really something unique in the fact that, you know, constructing something out of thin air to go with the timeline of an action.
Was it Shakey's?
I don't know if it was Shakey's. Maybe it was.
I bet it was.
You know what I'm talking about?
I
though?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really cool as a kid. You were like mesmerized. You're like, I got, you know, it kept my attention. I'm sure my parents loved it. I mean, they're like, eat your pizza, boy, and watch the movie. Shh.
Well, I mean, these are 100-year-old films, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
these are like, I think they're just so cool with modern day Jackie Myers.
Lightning
I love
fast
it.
fingers on the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. And a lot of them are in the public domain, which is crucial to
Yeah.
performing them live.
So you're a synthesizer, a piano player, and you love the organ, and you sing.
Yeah, actually, J.E.'s heard me play the organ with Nick Schneblin on Tuesdays.
Schneblin.
Schneblin.
Yes, Nick.
And very well. Yes.
Another
And-
talented soul.
and our good friend Cliffy Moore, you know, he plays well off of you. And when I used to go see him a lot, Adam was still playing drums, you know,
Mhm.
and so Cliff and Adam they played so well together
Oh,
off
man.
of one another.
I
It's just
love that
incredible.
band.
But to see him, both Nick and Cliff, play off of you, I think that added so much to that band. I'm telling you, and I know Nick does too. Obviously,
Thank you.
You're still hitting that scene with him.
Did you always play keys, or did you start off with a banjo and then move to keys, or has it always just been keys and
Just
underneath?
keys.
Just keys.
I just love, well, So I think that I play the drum set.
Okay, you think you play the
I
drum
think
set?
I do, but actually no one else believes that.
Really?
So I've tried it like
You
jams
mean
once or twice.
there's a group of haters that call you up and go, hey, you don't play drums.
Well, I just
She does on the Kansas City
If
Limits
you- if-
jingle.
if my wife constitutes as a group, then
Okay, well, if she's beating you up, she's beating you up.
yeah,
You know,
it's like
I have a Sony little drum machine thing, and I'd hook it up to a speaker to, just to get my feel. And there was many times screamed down to the basement, you don't play drums.
don't do that anymore.
Please stop.
It's really fun though.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a drum set. I have a drum room. I totally go in there and hang out, but I don't know if it's musical. I'm just hitting stuff.
Right on. So, and the different genres, I know we're talking about jazz here, but I mean, do you have multi-genre interest in playing different kinds of music, or is that really the lane you like to stay in?
I moved here primarily to pursue jazz full time.
Okay.
And that's primarily what I do now. And I'm like completely honored to be part of the scene doing that music in such a historically jazz city,
Yes,
historically jazz oriented city like Kansas City.
totally.
And specifically, I have always loved the artists that came from this town. So but that being said, I have played in soul bands. I've played in country bands. I played a lot of Western swing when I
Okay.
was in Texas,
Yeah.
which is, I guess I'd call it Texas dance and jazz. Like it's like a lot of stride, a lot of fast moving stuff, but there's changes just like jazz.
Sure.
Like the song Indiana, right, is like that's often played by Western swing musicians. It's also Donna Lee in the jazz world. It's the same changes, and
okay.
you'll see that a lot.
You think the blues that you play with Nick, you think that helps you in your jazz, in bringing that type of genre into your jazz?
I don't know, and I definitely it's an interesting question because I used to analyze pretty much everything that I did. If I wanted to do something, it would have to be like something that would make me grow as a musician. And since the pandemic, for whatever reason, when the pandemic happened, my draw to music and my reasons for playing it became a lot more maybe like emotional than that. I play every Tuesday with Nick because I love his songs and I really enjoy it. And I don't think past that.
Do you,
You know?
do you
That's
find
cool.
shelter in it?
I just like I can fully express myself in that group. It's like
They accept you're everything to them, and you're everything to yourself without having to have an expectation.
yeah.
And I
that's
think
a better
the
way to
venue
put it.
itself
Yeah.
probably has something to do with it. I mean, it is got its thickened tradition of blues. I saw just this past week where Bill Murray's brother stopped in. Right?
Yeah. I was
And-
in that band.
and
I was there that night.
That's right. You were
Yeah.
there, and because him and his two other brothers have a blues club in Chicago.
Who
right?
knew? I didn't know.
And so, I mean, that tradition that we have there, and to play there, I think, and to play well there, like you do, I think that's part of it. I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think also musically speaking, the jazz and blues scenes play off each other, maybe even more than they realize. Like the blues scene in Kansas City swings a little bit. In other cities, the
Yeah.
blues doesn't really swing. Like
That's
that
right.
is pretty unique to our situation.
You said
And that's
it right.
because we're so steeped in jazz. And then there's a lot of musicians that will bring kind of like a bluesy or an R&B feel to jazz, and you're not necessarily finding that in all of the other cities as well.
Right.
So in that way, I do feel like they play off each other.
We had a conversation with an artist, and I can't remember who. I think it was maybe Kurt Allen. And one of the things we talked about is you go all over the country, and there's various places that are like Memphis and Nashville and Austin. And, they kind of get that conversation. They're known for music. They're known, and then the conversation is, well, how come just a lot of people didn't know a lot about Kansas City's thick musical heritage.
Yeah.
And one of the things we kind of come from those conversations that we had is that it used to be the music no one gave a hoot about. If it wasn't country and wasn't the swing and it wasn't the predominantly other kinds of musics in the early 30s and 40s and 50s, the jazz and the blues and the nightclubs, those were, a segregated kind of world that was, not in the normal mainstream of listening to. And so in some ways, they didn't get the financial support or the financial consistency of people talking or going to those places as much as they did in other venues. And this is a two-parter, so I just wanted your opinion on that. And the other one was that some people, when we talk about original artists, you coming from Austin to here, it's like to be an original artist in other locations outside of Kansas City, it's like people really dig the heck out of that. You come to Kansas City, there's a predominant interest in the cover band molecule. So,
For sure.
So I just want to know, do you see that same kind of thing that the cover bands in Kansas City tend to get more of an attention than they would elsewhere in the United States playing and versus original artists?
Yes. Cover bands, though, are sort of like a national trend. And you also see this in modern music. A lot of people are covering old music and putting that out.
But do you see it as like, if you go to a city and there's like 9 cover bands, that's their deal, and there's one original artist? That seems to be the case in Kansas City. If you go to other cities, there's like 8 or 9 original artists and a couple of cover band kind of things. That's just what I've seen. Now, you've traveled more and been in Austin more local to now, but I guess my question is, why is it that original artists aren't as given as much attention here in Kansas City as they would say if they went to Austin, Nashville, or Tennessee or New York?
Well, I'll take it in talking about Austin and Nashville, because
Okay.
those are places that I've spent a fair amount of time in.
Okay.
Those places have parts of the music industry that are not as prevalent here. So if you make an original tune in Austin, Texas, and put that out, first of all, there's a ton of venues available to you as a singer-songwriter that support that kind of music, and that's who they want to bill. So you'd have to have a venue here that was their thing. And you have, we could name a couple venues.
We got a couple, yeah.
Right. But in Austin, there's like a ton of them, and same in Nashville. And Nashville is kind of like a machine for original music because they're collaborating with other industries too. They have record labels, they've got studios. And when their artists put out something under a label, that label probably has distribution and sync, and they're trying to make money off of that original song by distributing it in other industries like film or commercials or online, whatever.
So they need the original material to pump out to the planet.
Right. And they also have they have wide-reaching radio abilities too. So they have the ability to turn out like a possible top 40.
Well, and the clubs too. They have connections with just about all the clubs up and down, Nashville and most of the streets. So.
Right. And they have enough clubs that want, like you see the show Nashville and they've got the Blue Bonnet, right?
Yep.
That's a real venue.
Right.
They actually,
Good point, yeah.
They're going to book only original stuff. One of the things that's wonderful about Kansas City is that we're steeped in the tradition of jazz and blues. One of the things that's difficult as someone who wants to write original music is that we're steeped in jazz and blues. Do I want to live in Nashville? No.
Yeah, so it's really the multifaceted of layers of intertwining that people are doing specifically to the music content that's being created in their backyard versus Kansas City we've got several lanes. That's not our main lane.
It's not yet, but there are. If you look at because you've booked music festivals.
Yes.
If you look at the festivals, a lot of times they're going to try to find local acts that are doing original music.
Yep.
And we do have some special musicians here that are doing that.
Yes.
Yes,
and
we're fortunate with that, yes.
Yeah. Nick Schneblin, it's almost all original music.
We're in a little bit of a music renaissance right now going on with lots of original artists in Kansas City. And there's a plethora. There's just a sea of people out there performing.
Right. Also, I'd like to mention that in the jazz scene, there's a lot of people putting out records. Matt Otto is a great example. I think his last one was in Downbeat.
Okay.
He's got a ton of records, and he's known as one of the Kansas City jazz musicians.
Where are you going to end up recording this album that we talked about earlier? Do you have a studio in mind?
There's an engineer that I've worked with a couple times, and he is negotiating with a couple local studios.
Okay.
So TBA, but I'm working towards maybe second week of January is when I'm going to start recording.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely be excited to hear more about that. And J.E., I've gotten through some of mine. I've got just a couple more questions. How about you?
Well, let's go ahead and hit that topic of where.
Well, she
When?
touched on it a little bit. How long ago did you move to Kansas City?
Oh, 5 years ago, the end of 2017.
Oh, it's been that long.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't realize that. So you were here pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So, jeez.
She got to know Grubhub in a whole new way here in Kansas City.
I was very lucky because at the time I could put a down payment on a house that like I could afford. And in Austin, this was like not even a conversation I could have.
Yeah,
It's-
right.
it's
But
crazy.
here, I could.
Yes.
I mean, I needed work. I'm still working on it.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
I was able to buy pre-pandemic, and I really think we should have more infrastructure to guide artists towards building equity in things like houses or things, because we don't really have that in our profession. Other professions, you've got like a 401k that somebody is helping you with, and you're
Right.
building a future. We don't talk about that enough in the artist community.
I'd love to help with that. I've been a lender for 22 years, so I mean, maybe there's a way we collaborate.
Well, and you've
educate
also
artists.
had the concept of the health and dental, which
Yes.
is one of the things that they lack very much.
It-
Okay.
It's interesting you bring that up because
ahead.
in Austin, while I was living there, we had free health insurance. We had free pretty much everything.
Through
Austin Health Alliance, I think is what it's called.
Wow.
And what it was is there's so many musicians living in Austin
Yeah.
that their lack of insurance started costing the hospitals and health system in
Wow.
Austin so much money that it was actually cheaper just to get them.
Some coverage. So
Yeah. So we got our,
preventative
I mean,
health.
every year we got
Yeah.
our teeth cleaned, we got our ears checked, visions. Yeah.
we
had
need that
doctors.
here. We definitely need that.
Yes, very much so.
I
And,
agree,
and
yeah.
some of those folks, they got 2 bars of deodorant.
Well, Midwest Music Foundation, they help in getting bills paid, but we could prevent a lot of that, right? Trying to go find grants to help pay for, Jack Root's leg when he gets in a car accident, you
Right.
know, and he's stuck with all these bills, and they helped him out tremendously. But, if we could help in ways that would prevent a lot of that.
That, I mean, it's one thing, speaking on that, part of the inspiration from a musician is the fact that their mind's not on their health problems, in some degree, and they can get to and from their gigs. You take away someone's music life because of their health, it's an end game. What are some of your greatest inspirations that you've got going on in your life that you've been listening to currently, now, and previously musically, or maybe just inspirations to you that make you want to play that aren't musical?
Sure. Like hustling wise, Dolly Parton.
Okay.
There are stories of Dolly Parton like putting out one of her first records, and she actually loaded them into her car and physically drove them to the radio stations
Yes.
that she wanted to go to. And I just never want to get to a point where I think I'm above any of that. I always
I love
want to
that.
be
I love that.
hustling.
Well said.
That's great. That's great.
So she definitely inspires me
She's a
in that
queen.
way. I'm not sure I have the potential. I don't think I potentially want to go the way she did in other ways, but she's amazing. And I love her music. I love all of her music. I listened 9 to 5 the other day.
That Dollywood is the most inexpensive theme park in the entire world. I swear to God. I fed my entire family. It was $38. I said, "Is my receipt right?" And they go, "Yep." Free parking.
Wow.
Oh my God, you got to go.
Oh, I need to go. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
the
I
cool.
don't think
mountains.
it's that cheap anymore. But
Listen, that was
it's,
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Has it gone up?
Yeah, everything's gone up. So before we got on the air today, we were talking a little bit about your educational experience in Kansas City, but tell us a little more about your musical education and how you've got developed and all of the places that you've been.
Sure. I mentioned a little bit of it when I was talking about UMKC. I went to graduate school there. And that was back when Bobby,
What's that mascot?
the Roo,
The Ruse.
There it is. Okay.
the Mighty Roo.
I know. I had to hear him say it.
Inside that pocket, there's a baby kangaroo.
Yeah. Sweet.
It's got a saxophone.
It's got a saxophone. They call it baby saxaroo.
Oh Lord.
It's a saxaroo.
Saxaroo.
So you're
Sorry.
you're musically educated though. So
Yeah, I went to originally I went to Grinnell College in Iowa, and I went there to study science, but like
Where is that?
somewhere in Iowa. I don't
I've
know.
never
It's
heard
like
of
yeah, That's
It's in the Grinnell Valley.
it's between Iowa City and Des Moines.
Are you originally from Iowa? Is that like
No.
Okay.
No.
She had to get away.
I had a college counselor that was like, there's this weird quirky school that I send kids to sometimes. You might be a good fit.
Wow.
And I visited
Did he
like,
like you or she like you?
I don't know.
Oh.
Like,
It worked out well.
Go be
though.
with the other weird children.
In the field, in the
In
cornfields
the
of
corn,
Iowa.
children of the corn. That's a whole new
my.
thing. Children of the saxophone.
Well, was it a good school?
It was like, if I'd have known I would have done music, I probably wouldn't have gone there. But in other ways, like, yes, it was an amazing school. I still have many close friends from there. And I think it provided the atmosphere that I needed to figure out who I was and what I wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know I wanted to be.
What age
What age?
were you there?
Gosh, what age are you in college? 18 through 22, I guess.
Young gal. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, at 18, I was like, wow, I'm going to be a scientist. But by 20, I was like, I am going to be a musician.
I'm gonna grow
be a
spores.
jazz musician.
yeah, but something clicked and changed, and you were rerouted into musical surroundings and said,
Yeah,
"I'm
they
gonna."
must be growing something else in those cornfields.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
got to me.
Well, where'd you move from there?
Huh?
Where did you move on to from there, educationally wise?
Well, then I moved to Austin. And then I was I did a lot of online courses because I was touring most of the time. And so I wanted to use the time sometimes you're in the van for like 10 hours. So I got this little laptop and I started taking these online composition courses from Berkeley. And those were like a great way to grow as an artist and be on the road at the same time. And I earned a certificate from there.
Oh, nice.
And then when I moved here, I went to the conservatory during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Honestly, I currently take piano with an instructor. I love courses. I love school. If I have the time and money later in life, I'd love to go back for another degree.
You like it?
Yeah,
Does it
it's
help you
so-
with your music?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a hard question to answer. I think it's like part of the musical journey for me.
Is it more the history of it or what you're learning from it, or you actually are applying it?
I think if you are open to the information that you're getting, whether it's history or it's applied composition or it's applied playing, all of it can help. And I say that as someone who really, really did not want to take Western music history again, but I had to. And I was like, well, if I'm paying for this and I'm signed up, I'm not going to waste time. And I was early to every class and I
Sure.
participated and I learned a ton. I
nice.
love all these classical composers now that I had kind of written off years ago. So
I
I
like
think
it.
if you have an open mind, just being around brilliant people that teach music is a good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, everything I learned from someone else. I mean, flat out.
Right.
You know? And that's awesome that you dig it that much. I mean, there's a lot of people that struggle trying to absorb what they want to absorb, and you know what you want to absorb. And that is key to success. It's also key to seeing the end of your tunnel. You know,
Sure.
the real goal in mind. You know, and I think you're going to make a huge splash. Again, if you're just joining us here on Kansas City Limits, we're in the studio with Miss Jackie Myers, the Jackie Myers Band. You can find out everything about her on Jackie Myers Music. That's MYERS, folks. And you can also find her on Facebook. She's got a Jackie Myers Music there as well. Really enjoyed having you here today in the studio. And
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun.
So before we go, I want to talk a little bit about some of the accolades. We've discussed you playing a little bit with Nick
Lonnie.
Schneblin's band and with Lonnie at the Reno Club. You were a featured member of the Omaha Blues Society event, Kings of Blues. So before you jump onto that, I got to see some of the video that was taken from that. Did you get to say hi to John when you were up there?
Yeah.
Did he come up? Yeah,
Yeah.
He did. So he got some video and sent it to me.
Okay.
And then, of course, I got some from Angela as well. Oh, my gosh, what a frickin' lineup.
Yeah. Tremendous amount of talent. I was
Holy
very lucky to be a part of
cow.
that.
I got to see Chris Lager this last weekend over at Nux, and I didn't get to talk to him, but I love him. And in fact, last time I saw him, he and Nick Schneblin played together. I think you were there, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But many other musicians in Omaha, and in Kansas City. That's why they selected the old Omaha, Kansas City Kings as the logo for the
Oh, wow.
for
That's
the
where that came
poster.
from.
Yeah. But on that, my friend John Mertz, jazz musician, he's a guitar player and played in many, many clubs in Omaha for many years. They don't necessarily have a huge jazz community, but it's growing up there as it is here. And I'll tell the story real quick. I had reached out to Jackie because John was on his way. Him and Ed Archibald were going to do the St. Louis
yeah.
Jazz Festival, and which was on a Saturday. Wanted to know if he could get a gig in Kansas City on a Friday or Sunday. I reached out to Jackie. I asked her if she knew, because I knew she played Green Lady and Black Dolphin and stuff. So it was too early, or too late. I mean, we didn't have really enough time. And but I'm down sitting with Frank at a show, and I started telling him a little about this. And anyway, he said, "Well, I've got the Gospel Lounge open." I said, "Really? On a Friday?" He said, "Yeah, somebody fell out. If you want it, you can have it." I'm like, "Okay." I text John back and I said, "Hey, you and Ed, if you want to come and play." And because I told John and Ed that you were maybe going to try to help us, find some. Told them who you were, et cetera, et cetera. So as it turned out, we got the gig at the Gospel Lounge, and I contacted you, and you're like, "Well, I got a gig earlier that night, but I can come and play." I'm like, "Okay, well, great." So Ed and John were excited. They showed up. You had set up earlier in the day, right?
Yeah, I don't pull this often, but I actually have like a backup rig. And if I have gigs that are real tight, I will go set up real early in the day, both of them, so that I can go play
Smart.
well.
It was perfect
Smart.
because they did, kind of some intro songs, but by the time you got there, I mean, it was almost the full set. And my gosh, there wasn't enough time to promote it well. So, there was maybe 12, 15 people in there. It wasn't crowded, but I love the Gospel Lounge anyway. But for that show, oh my gosh, it was so good. And in fact, from that show, they're trying to get you, if you haven't already been, they want you to come up and play with them up at the Jewel.
Oh, yeah. I would love to. I haven't
John
heard from
keeps
them
telling
recently.
me about that. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a great show. And I loved having, being part of that and being able to see you sit in and play with those guys.
Yeah, thank you for putting that together.
It was so good. I mean, Ed, who has played with a lot of great musicians, he's been a jazz musician for 50 years, right? So, when he says that somebody is really good, I would take that to heart. And
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
that girl is really good. So, but anyway, other accolades that I wanted to touch on real quick was in this, I'll let you, Jackie, when we were talking before the show, you were telling us a little bit about the panel that you got to sit in on. So tell us about that.
It was put on by Casey Jazz Alive, and Steve Kraske hosted the panel. And if you're not familiar with him, he's a wonderful asset to the jazz community and the radio community in Kansas City. And I got to sit with Lonnie McFadden, and we were guests on this panel, and we discussed, and it was filmed kind of like you're filming today, and they put it on social medias and I think their website. And we were asked to discuss the jazz scene in Kansas City, what's wonderful about it, how can we help it grow, things like that. And it was just an honor to be asked to do that at all, to represent a scene that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Well deserved, though. You are for that.
Thank you. And to sit across next to Lonnie McFadden, who's such a stalwart of the Kansas City scene. He is the guy to look up to. We were talking about him a little bit before we started, and I would tell the younger players, if you want to see someone who really understands how to perform, we can go to school and figure out how to play, but really how to perform. And Lonnie can play too.
Yes.
But that man understands what a performance is. He respects his audience. He respects his venues. He respects his players. He is the gentleman of jazz in Kansas City.
Total professional musician, a professional entertainer. He takes you on an experience and takes your mind off things every time.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that was well said. And then lastly, before we get out of here, let's talk about what you got coming up? You got anything through the holidays, first part of the year, besides sitting down and doing an album?
Yes, I hope I don't have to take out my phone for this answer, but I might. I have the pleasure of playing with Bob Bowman
Nice.
next month, and I'm really excited about that. We're at Meadowbrook Market on December 1st.
Meadowbrook Market.
It's in Prairie Village.
What is that?
Oh, it's the old golf course.
Yes, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Multi-purpose.
Yeah,
Place. Yeah.
and Matt Otto is going to be there too.
Yeah,
I'm just going
it's
to
a
be
cool
holding on
event,
for dear
cool
life.
space.
Matt's cool.
Matt's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean it. I
And,
will
and
be.
when is that?
December 1st?
December 1st. Friday,
And then
December 1st.
the three of us will also play that next Thursday, December 7th at the Hey Hey Club.
The Hey Hey Club, another cool place.
Yep.
Yeah, I've actually never played there.
Oh, you're gonna dig it.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's pretty cool.
It's dim lit like the Green Lady Lounge.
Cool.
The food and the cocktails are off the chain.
Very cool.
Yeah, you'll have a good time.
I've never eaten there.
Oh,
really good?
I'm thinking about eating there for New Year's, maybe.
Huh. Okay.
That might be
Speaking
a
of
cool
New
place.
Year's,
Yes, tell us.
I'm playing at Chaz on the Plaza.
Oh, that's fun.
On New Year's. I've played for them, gosh, I don't know how many New Year's. That's kind of our tradition.
That's great.
And I really respect and enjoy that venue. That you can tell a lot about a venue based on their retention of staff.
Okay.
And they have had like the same staff
That's
for
cool.
forever. Like they've had the same manager, one of the head managers,
Wow.
since I've started working there 5 years ago.
And that's a New Year's Eve
Yeah.
show.
Yep.
And you're there monthly, right?
Yeah, I'm there every second and fourth Thursday.
Oh, twice a month. Okay.
Yep. And first Saturday.
And then where did I see you at? I went to the brewery somewhere.
Casey Beer Co.
Casey Beer Co. Now, are you still doing that gig?
Yeah, we just met. I almost have my next year's schedule set.
Wow.
They are going to have me start I think I start in April, but I'll do every fourth Friday with them.
You always bring the same sax guy, or do you bring somebody different every time? Or
I think.
Do you sax around?
You saw me, which did you just make a pun?
Yeah, do you sax around?
attaboy, Robert.
That's rather brass of you.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
She really knows how to blow the horn.
Uh-huh. All right.
You're putting wind in my sails.
That blows me away.
All right, you're both killing me here.
Okay.
So, all right, yeah, I got to see a good sax player.
Yeah, that's Rich Wheeler. He's great.
Yeah, I've never seen him before,
He's amazing.
but I'm guessing a jazz guy from around.
He can play a lot of types of music, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, he plays a lot of jazz.
Is he the one with you all the time at Beer Co?
You know, I think that I'm really similar to a lot of people in the scene.
Oh.
I have like mostly a stable lineup, and then maybe I'll have two stable lineups. You know, like my organ trio often has Ariana Namadi on saxophone. And then we've tried a couple drummers. We've liked them all. Who's ever usually available comes and plays that. And then Rich has done a couple duo things with me. When I do trio and I'm playing piano and I do vocals as well, usually Matt Leifer's on the drum set, Seth Lee is on bass. But if one of them can't make it, we have a plethora of talent here. So they usually find one of our friends to sub in, and we take care of each other in that regard.
That's excellent. Any other gigs outside, big gigs that you got coming up outside the New
She's
Year's
got a
Eve?
couple of competitions going on next year.
Oh, I've been asked to adjudicate a couple things.
Oh, okay.
And I have not done that before, so I'm really excited about that.
So you're going to be, what are the names of those events?
That's a great question. They're in my calendar.
Check her calendar out for more details.
I think RiffGen is actually doing one of those,
Okay,
and that's
cool.
in February. And then Nate Nall asked me to do the other one, so I'll
Very
be
cool.
working with him on that.
When I was a kid, there was the high school choir teacher. He goes, they're trying to promote the orchestra, and they want to start it off by getting people interested in jazz and blues, and then interest is going to grow from there. I said, okay, and they go, well, you play string bass. I said, okay, and they go, so will you learn electric bass? And another guy here in town, his name's Cody Griffin. He played guitar, and then this other guy named Dave Slaughter played harmonica. And so they put us on a school bus with the orchestras, and after the orchestras played, then they had us go up and play like 4 or 5 songs to make it cool, and then left. Well, they had, this is like in the 6th grade, 7th grade, I'd be like ditching 4th hour. I'm like, I'm going on tour to go play some elementary schools, So
Sweet.
Jackie, do you have anything else? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say?
I'm just really appreciative of what you guys are doing. We've needed something like this for a long time.
Thank you.
As we were talking about the other cities and what they have infrastructure-wise, a lot of it is media-based and being able to get some exposure. And we have a huge need for that here simply because the supply and demand is totally off. We have a huge supply of very talented people, and which is one of the reasons I moved here. You don't move from Austin to Kansas City to become famous. That's not really. But
it's because of the Chiefs.
And Tasteway is really taking up a lot of room these days. But I did get to just absorb an amazing amount of musical vocabulary from just existing here. And that is because of who lives here and what they're able to play. So we need people like you to show everyone what we've got here. Because I truly think it's so special. I mean, I've based 5 years around it.
Right
I live here. This is my home.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for your kind words.
Robert and I try. We don't ever really
Very
get
hard.
it, but we try.
We believe in artists, and we know it's an uphill battle for most of us. Some of the guys play it just to make a living. Other people got the stars in their eyes. Either way, we want to help them any way we can.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
And Robert, why don't you take us out of here?
I will. Remember, be good to yourself, be good to others, and be good to musicians. We'll see you next time on Kansas City Limits Radio.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, this is In My Solitude. It's a Duke Ellington tune.
In my solitude, you taught me with the reveries of days that have gone by. In my solitude, you haunt me with memories that seem to never die. I sit in my chair, filled with despair. No one should feel so saddened with gloom. Everywhere I sit and I stare, and I know that I'll soon go mad in my solitude. I'm begging, please, Lord above, won't you give me back my love? In my chair, filled with despair. No one should feel so saddened with gloom everywhere. I sit and I stare, and I know I'll soon go mad in my solitude. I'm begging, me back my love? Won't you give me back my love? Won't you give me back my love? Won't you give me back my love?
All right, the next one, I'm going to do a Gershwin tune. I'm going to do Summertime. Even though we're headed to a different season.
Well, summertime, oh, the living's easy. Fish are, they're jumping. Ooh, the cotton's high. Your daddy's rich. You know your mama, she's good looking. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. It's one of these morning nights, you know you're gonna rise up singing. Ooh, you'll spread your wings. Ooh, you'll take to the sky. Until that day, you know no one's gonna harm you. So hush, little baby, now don't you cry. Summertime, oh, the living's easy. Fish are, they're jumping. Ooh, the cotton's high. Your daddy's rich. You know your mama, she's good looking. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. 'Cause one of these morning nights, you know you're gonna rise up singing. You'll spread your wings, and you take to the sky. Until that day, you know no one's gonna harm you. So hush, little baby, now don't you. Hush, little baby, now don't you. Hush, little baby, now don't you cry. 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 Thank you so much.
That is the one. That is